be a lollipop to put Russia in a four nations, five nations tournament down the road here. Like,
The Ravens, the Eagles, Partridges. And now you have the Fighting Hawks. Welcome to another interview with it's going to be with Brad Elliott Schlossman. We're going to figure out what he likes to be called. There's a little bit of dispute whether it's Brad or Elliott. But anyways, we're going to come up with a random word each, one that I have and one that I'm going to give it to David, and then David's going to give me a random word, and we got to implement it into this interview somehow. Dave, I'm going to say your word is lollipop.
Lollipop? Okay, yeah. Okay. Your word is partridge, like the grounded bird. Partridge.
Partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah, like that, yeah.
Okay. Partridge. Okay, sounds good. Anyways, everyone knows what the contest is, I guess the challenge. But we have a great interview with Mr. Schlossman. It'll be interesting and fun learning about him. And yeah, we'll resume when he comes in.
Yeah, a little bit of background on Mr. Schlossman, former number one player for Fargo South, probably the best college hockey beat writer in the United States of America, and an avid tennis fan and journalist as well. So you're in for some good content tonight, folks.
And before I forget, Backyard Tennis, presented by Dakota Roasters. We legitimately have a promo discount. 10% off if you go and buy some coffee from their website. It's actually very, very fairly priced if you compare it to the store stuff, and it's objectively way better. I always put my money where my mouth is when I speak highly of our product. I buy this every single week. I guess I'm not on like a subscription thing, but I buy it every like probably 2 or 3 weeks. It's gas. It's so good. Highly recommend it. But if you check out and do promo code tennis, you get 10% off. Highly recommend. We're not getting any kickback from it. I asked the owner.
It's just genuinely good coffee.
Yeah. They're just like, I was like, I want to see if I can like get anyone to buy the coffee, like hook us up with a promo. And I don't think anyone's probably done it besides me, but it's enough for the owner to get my business, I'm sure. So
yeah. What's your favorite blend, Isaac?
I do 2 different ones. I do it is the tea blend. Let me look it up. Dakota Roasters. This is brutal that I don't know this off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
If I was getting paid, I would know this. Dakota Roasters. And I'm getting a little bit of a...
Personally, I'm a huge fan of the Rough Rider. I had that at your place. It's outstanding. It's outstanding. I don't mess around with my coffee. I'm pretty old school. I was just a Folgers guy growing up, and in college, black coffee. But my goodness, that Rough Rider blend is just outstanding.
Yeah.
Also a fan of the Juneberry as well.
Yeah. So those are the two. So for me, legitimately, I drink this every single week, every single day. I do the Wild Prairie Rose. That's my go-to. Yeah. And then right underneath it is the Juneberry. The Juneberry here. It's super, super gas. But yeah, those are my 2 go-to. I go 4 bags. So hook up 4 bags. It's $30, $60, and then you get 10% off, whatever that is.
That's a hell of a deal. Support a local business.
They ship for free anywhere in the United States.
That's a Sigma boy move right there.
Yeah. So anyways, go check out get your coffee, Dakota Roasters. Support a North Dakota small business. Anyways, we'll resume when our guest comes back.
I've played pickleball with your brother before.
Really, Trav?
Yeah.
How'd it go?
Good.
Who won? Was it competitive?
I mean, his wife is a lot better than he is. I've played with her a few times. She's good.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's got...
Yeah, she's pretty good. Travis is pretty good, too. Travis was a really, really good doubles player in high school. He quit his senior year because he wanted to do track to get faster for UND. That's when he kind of made the decision to play football up at UND. So he was like full bore, just UND. I want to get ready for my football experience. But he would have played one singles there. So yeah, pickleball is an easy translation from tennis.
Yeah.
You want to start?
Yeah. Good evening, tennis fans. We're here with another episode of Backyard Tennis. Got myself, got Ike. We've got a very, very, very special guest tonight. He is the beat writer for the University of North Dakota Fighting Hawks, one of the best college hockey journalists in the country, an avid Deeks Pizza fan, and a former standout tennis player. Let's welcome Brad Elliott Schlossman to the podcast. How are you doing tonight, Brad?
Doing well, guys. How you guys doing?
Super good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'll be even better at around 11:30 because Brad, we've talked. I coach the Concordia men's tennis team down in Moorhead, an hour south, and we've got the coveted 10 p.m. practice slot for practice tonight. So be better after that. But I do want to ask right away, Brad. I call you Elliot.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the paper, you're Brad. What do you prefer? Give us the story behind that.
Yeah, so my name is, first name's Brad, middle name's Elliot, but my dad's name is also Brad, and it just got confusing, and my family started calling me Elliot, and so a lot of people from high school, especially people who know my family, will call me Elliot. My sister would never call me Brad. And then I ended up going to college, and of course I just used my first name because I wasn't going to tell a professor who has 200 kids in the class so I kind of started using my first name after I went back to college, and now it's just really confusing. So the moral of the story is, if you name your kid something, just call them by their first name and make it easy. I have people who know me by all sorts of different names.
Yeah, I've heard plenty of them through various endeavors.
Yeah.
From Brad to Elliot to Jumbo.
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about tennis, Brad. You played for Fargo South. You were their top singles player back in the day. How did tennis come into your life?
I think I can't even remember how old I was, and I went and tried playing out at, it's called Courts Plus now. I think it was called something like the Southwest Racket Center. Southgate, yeah, I don't know. So I tried, and I think from the first time I played, I really liked it. I think I wanted to get back out there right away. I had watched some tennis on TV and liked watching it. I think part of it was I decided to cheer for Boris Becker, and he ended up winning Wimbledon that year. So I was like, oh man, the guy I cheer for actually won. So I got into it. And I think it was the sport that came the most natural to me as well. I played just about everything and tried about everything. And I did really I love playing baseball. I played basketball. I did a little bit of running, but running was terrible. Tennis was the one I just felt like I was the most natural to me, and I just stuck with it. So I think I really I started playing, but not a lot of tournaments when I was younger. And then there was a player who was my age named Drew Christofferson, and I had played with him, and he kind of said, hey, you can go out for Fargo South's team. And I was like, I'm in 8th grade, and there are high school kids that are going to probably destroy me. I'm just and he's like, no, they welcome everyone. They want people to come out. And Drew kind of convinced me to come out for the team. And sure enough, your dad was my coach. And he, I think one of my parents even called and was like, Drew Christofferson's telling us to come out. I don't know if this is a great idea for our kid. And he said, look, we have people who, from the best player in the state to people who are kind of getting started, just come out. So I did. And like you said, like the guys who were at the top of the lineup were super nice and welcoming, and I think that just made you want to play even more. So that's kind of how I once I came out for the team, and it was you felt welcome on the team, and you're just a little eighth grader, and like, these seniors know my name. This is really weird. Like, they're talking to me. But yeah, there was just a great environment around the team that we had, and it just made me want to play.
Mm-hmm. And when you say like the sport came, naturally, and then you talked about your teammates and how they maybe have made you feel like it came more naturally. Do you think it was more the sport and how you picked it up in the sport coming easy to you, or do you think it was more so the team environment of tennis and the team giving you that ability to like try out this thing and practice it in a good environment where you're going to prosper?
I think it was both. I think at first it was like it kind of came natural, and that's why I kept going out. Like, I realized like I could hit a ball into the corner if I wanted to. I could kind of, I would do some target drills, and I was pretty efficient at them right when I started, and that made me want to be more and more competitive and keep playing. And then I think once I got there and there was that environment there, it was like, this is something I really want to sink my teeth into. Like, I could go up and play varsity tennis, and I could play. I want to help the team win. Like, I want to be part of this. And then, like, that eighth grade year, I wasn't expecting anything. I think I ended up playing one varsity match that year. And then the next year when I was in ninth grade, I was on the tournament team. And I think it was kind of funny. I remember playing the challenge match when I was in eighth grade, and I was playing an older player, and I was like, it actually ran through my head. Like, it was like, is this bad if I like beat this? Like, are all the older guys just going to not like me because I beat this guy? I ended up losing, but I think I tried like 50% because I was kind of nervous about beating the senior. But then, like, after you feel comfortable around them, then the next year I came back and I was like, no, I'm out here to beat everybody this year. So I think, like, once I felt comfortable with the team, that's where it was like, okay, now I'm going to try to be the best player on the team. And so, yeah, it was kind of a transition from my eighth grade year to ninth grade year. And I think part of it was, hey, they made me feel at home and I didn't feel uncomfortable. And yeah.
Yeah, where were you playing in the lineup when you were like freshman year? Were you playing high in the lineup, or were you guys pretty good?
I was borderline varsity as a freshman.
Okay.
And then my sophomore year, I was number 2. I think my freshman year, our tournament team was 6 seniors and 3 freshmen.
Okay, so when you reference tournament team, the team, it's like a group of what, 6 people who are like, and they're the ones playing in the playoffs type of thing.
Well, it would be 8, wouldn't it? Would it be 8 or 9?
When I played, it was 9. So you would designate 9 people who were eligible to play in the playoffs. So gotcha. You had to send into like the activities association. These are our 9 eligible players. And so the whole team was together the whole time, which is something I loved. I thought that was really important. I know it's tough to do with some teams that have 50-some people, but even if I like wasn't hitting with the top players, to be like around them, I thought that was a really big deal. Like to me as like an 8th grader, I was like in the same huddles as like Josh Staka and Mark Hansen, and Schultz was our number 2 player. Like I was like around those guys, and it just made you feel like you were a part of it, even though I wasn't on varsity. So I thought that was really important that they kept the JV guys at the same courts as the varsity guys. And then, my freshman year, I cracked it a little bit. I was on the tournament team, which was cool for me as a freshman, and it's all seniors, and then it's me, Derek, and Drew, and we could clearly see what was going to happen. We were like, okay, so the next year, it's us, like there's no juniors or sophomores ahead of us. Like it's going to be up to us to carry the team. So, then sophomore year, it was sophomore, junior, senior year. It was us three that kind of had to lead the team.
How'd that go?
The first year we weren't great. I'll never forget. So it was Drew, Derek, and I had some experience playing some of these older guys. And then right below us, it was Ryan Salvatore and Brett Carlsrud. And they were freshmen now. And I remember them coming onto the court. We were playing Fargo North, first match, and they were tiny. Like, they were not physically developed at all. Just these, like, tiny, tiny guys come out there, and they're playing like Nick Lakadock. And he had, like, a goatee, and he was just this – I'm like – you're just looking at you're like, there's a man over here, and there's two children over here, and they are going to get destroyed. And they did. So that was kind of the story of that year. We took we weren't bad, but we certainly could not compete with the top teams. And then the next year when we became juniors, it was South and Red River for the next how many years, every year playing for the final. I think it was our junior year. We did have a really challenging semifinal against Minot. If you guys go to the North Dakota State Tournament and you look through the brochure, it has like past champions and stuff. There's also a page on there that describes sportsmanlike conduct. That was us that got that page in there. It was us in Minot in the semifinals in 1998. They decided to put that in there because we would talk a fair amount of trash, and the Minot team did not back down from it, and it came down to one match. It was Carlsrud against one of their guys, and like we were all on the court, and like one of the players would double fault, and we'd be like, yeah, yes, that was right in the net. And like then Carlsrud would miss a backhand, and we were just all screaming. I think all the adults were like, this cannot happen again. And then sure enough, next year we get to state, and there's like this thing in there that describes how you properly cheer at the state tournament. So,
well, going off of that, Brad, you mentioned target practice earlier. And obviously I've got some inside sources inside the family. Did that target practice as a middle schooler help you when there were UPS or FedEx vehicles driving by these Fargo South courts during practice?
That was always one of our things. Anytime, you remember UPS trucks, they don't really have a door on them. They just kind of, and anytime a UPS truck would go by, we would try to see if we could get one, hit one out of the courts into the UPS truck going by. So that was one of our things. And you just see all these balls start flying, and I don't think I never succeeded. It was challenging, but yeah, that was one of our things. Trying to launch a ball into a UPS truck.
Was it the same driver every day? I know they have the same route usually. No,
we couldn't. I don't know if we could really see in there. But yeah, and the thing was, it wasn't just you weren't just shooting it over the fence. There were those huge trees there too that were really tall, so you would have to launch it over the trees and have it come back down. That was a good challenge. Good challenge.
We one thing that our high school team did. Well, this is when I was in 7th grade, so way back. But all the juniors and seniors, the cross country team would be starting their practice. We'd be starting ours. Typical, because the school just gets done, and they would run across the courts, and all the tennis players would just try to like peg them, like hit them as they would go on their first route, and they would do it every single day. It was so entertaining. Like, it was just a nice little rivalry between the cross country team and tennis team. But that kind of reminds me of that.
That sounds like a tennis team for sure. A thing that we probably would have done as well. I don't know how your dad made it through our years, all those years. Like, Yeah,
I've
after
heard
we
many
were gone, it was probably smooth sailing.
Well, I'll tell you this. I think it built him into the man and coach that he is today. I've got many stories that I could share off air. Um, but Brad, talking to you about the sport of tennis, obviously you dabble in pickleball now. We've played tennis in the past. We played pickleball in the past. We actually won a tournament together.
We did.
I'll have to include that picture in the post or when this goes live or goes out. Um, but how much do you monitor tennis, North Dakota wise, but just Upper Midwest in general these days? I know for our viewers, Brad actually reached out. We interviewed Justin Gard recently, and Brad was part of just an incredible crop of junior players that were born in 1981, ranging from Justin Gard, who played at Iowa, to Eric Buderak, who played on the Pro Tour.
Yeah, Marty Fish is an 81 too from the northern section.
From Edina.
Yeah, I don't remember Marty Fish playing in the sectional tournament though. I
I think he
remember
moved down to Florida when he was fairly young. I feel
okay,
like.
Was he not? Did he not move when he was like 2 years?
Maybe he did. Like I just know he was an 81 from the cities. But I definitely remember Buderak. I remember Justin Gard. There are a few other really. Ross Greenstein was another guy who I think he might have played at the University of Florida. It was needless to say, I did not contend for section championships when I was in high school. Had a great time playing in them. I think Ross Greenstein, I think it was. I'm trying to remember which guy it was. One of them just had like this massive serve, and he was playing Scott Berg, one of the Fargo North guys my age. And I distinctly remember they were playing on these courts, and there was this massive parking lot behind them. And the parking lot was on a huge hill. So, like, if a ball goes out, like, it is going and going and going. It was horribly designed. But he kept destroying these serves, and Scott would like foul tip it, and it would go out, and he did it like 4 or 5 times. And finally, the guy said, "Can you just keep the ball in the court?" And we laughed about that forever and made fun of Scott for it forever. But he was a great player. Yeah, the section had a lot of really, really good players at my time. Certainly none of them would remember me ever threatening them in a match.
Did you ever play either Buderak or Gard in a match?
It's a really good question. I'd have to go back and look. I don't think I played Buderak. I don't remember off the top of my head. There's a kid that was named Sean Bowen, and he was nationally ranked. And we had like a down to the wire match, and I had just gotten new glasses that day, and when you first put them on, like your like depth perception is like really off, like 'cause it's new, like your eyes are messed. And I played the match, and I played absolutely terrible. I didn't know the guy was like I'd never. Usually I know these guys' names and stuff, but I had never seen this guy's name. And we played a match, and I think I lost 2 tiebreakers, like 7-6, 7-6, something like that. And I was like, I cannot believe I lost to that guy. Like, I cannot believe I didn't win that match. And even Oliver Summers was like, after the match, he was like, yeah, that was the worst I've seen you play in a long. I'm like, yeah, I had no business losing that match. And then like the next day I like look, and he beat like Trey Graft and Justin Gard, and he's like going in the term like, what? Like that guy? Like I just played the worst match I've played in years, and I almost beat him. Like, how is that happening? But yeah, that's probably the I didn't beat him, but it was tie break, and
That's when you peaked, even though you didn't play well.
I didn't know I peaked. Like I was like, had I known, like I would have maybe been a little bit more upbeat about how the match was going if I knew he was like legit, really, really good. I was more like, I can't believe I'm losing to this guy. Like this match shouldn't be close. This should be 2-2. Like I don't if I'm like playing anywhere near my level, and the guy was getting really mad too. And I thought he was just bad, but then I was like, huh, no wonder why he was so mad because he's actually like legit. Um,
Wait,
yeah,
you said that Ollie said that you should have beat that guy, or
yeah. Ollie was like, and Ollie didn't know him
Wow.
either, but Ollie was like, I was like, I played terrible. He's like, yeah, that's you played really bad. Like, yeah.
I don't know. I'm just picturing the way that Ollie's saying that to you. So sorry.
Well, but I mean, if he would have told me like you played really well, I would have been like, how bad do you think I am, Ollie? Like I'm not that bad, but he was just like, yeah, you legit played really bad in that match. I was like,
Yeah.
at least you saw it the same way I did.
Yeah.
But going off of that, and what I had mentioned earlier. I mean, what does your relationship with tennis look like these days,
Yeah.
Brad?
Yeah. I mean, I watch tons of tennis, different levels. I drive to Cincinnati every summer and go to the Cincinnati Open for 2 days with Ryan. Ryan McGuigan played for Fargo South. I actually taught him when he was younger. That was another thing I taught for several years. We also gave the Park District headaches for how we taught. We were unconventional. But I was like, we had fun when we taught, and we tried to make the kids have fun. Our goal, we're like, we're not trying to create the next Roger Federer out here. We're trying to get the kids to have fun so they come back.
Mm-hmm.
And we got, Jerry drove by one time, and we one of the games we would play, we'd all sit in carts with the shopping carts with the tennis balls, and we'd feed them to the kids, and then they'd hit it to us, and we'd play out points. And Ryan Salvatore's line was always like, kids, we are in carts, we cannot move, hit it to where we're not. And so if they hit it where we're not, it's a winner because we can't move, we're in a cart.
Yeah.
But and all of a sudden Jerry comes by and he sees us like in carts, like hitting an overhead, and he was really mad at us for that. But looking back on it, it was kind of funny because Fargo South was not good for a while after like the Carlsrud Salvatore class left. And then the next class that was really good was Ryan McGuigan,
Luke Broder,
Eric Moe, Parker Lawley,
Adam Gustad.
They were all the kids we had. They all loved playing tennis and kept playing tennis. So years later, we could go back and say, I guess it worked, like whatever we did. But yeah, I watch tennis a lot. I cover they always have me cover the state tournaments, boys and girls in North Dakota. And I try to follow some of the USTA events. I'll bring up the draw sheets of the Red and Ollie's tournament and just see who's playing and things like that. I played in Ollie's tournament a couple years ago. I ended up I lost first round and then won the consolation. I played after a while, I'm just like I'm getting too old to compete with college kids now. So
yeah, I feel that. I feel like that's really the endurance part of it. Being able to play that second, third, fourth, fifth match in a tournament, which you need to play that in order to advance in a tennis tournament. Mm-hmm. Those are the tough matches. Playing one time at a high level isn't too hard, I don't think, but it's playing in a couple hours after you're gassed, and they just have, a college regimen, where they're conditioning all the time. But so I got a question. When you brought up the Western and Southern Open, the Cincinnati Open, they're remodeling and renovating, and they're making it look
Yep.
sweet. Have you looked into that? Are you going this year?
I haven't made plans fully yet. We'll see. I haven't missed it for a few years. They started some of them before last year's tournament, but like the bulk of them are coming before this year's. And then, of course, the tournament's like being expanded now. I kind of figured out what days are the two best days to go, and now it's kind of like jumbled up because I'm like, oh, now that it's a completely different format. I have to refigure this out, what days I want to go if I go. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, it does look way better.
What days do you go, if you don't mind me asking?
So
did you go?
So I think Tuesday, Wednesday are the two best days, because so like the weekend, the qualies are like Saturday, Sunday, and then Sunday they have like two matches, and then Monday the main draw really gets going. But the top players would have buys. So then the next day, Tuesday, when you put all the top players in, what that does is those top players are all end up on center, which is where I never go into center.
Mm-hmm.
And that pushes all these other awesome players out to these outer courts. And so I love going and watching someone who is ranked 15 in the world at a court where there's 100 people watching. Like,
right.
To me, that's awesome. Like, for example, 4 years ago, I went to a side court that had 3 rows of bleachers on each side, and there were empty bleachers everywhere, and pulled up and watched a match, and it was the Italian guy with the one-handed backhand, Musetti against Carlos Alcaraz, and nobody was there. And it was or was it Musetti, or maybe it was a different. Anyways, it was someone like that, and yeah, there's 60 people watching. And then 2 weeks later, he's in the U.S. Open, and he was like in the fourth. That was when you made that first run to like the fourth round. I was like, I was watching this guy, and nobody was at the match. And then 2 years later, he wins the U.S. Open. Or it was 1 year later. 1 year, I think. Yeah, so that's what I love, seeing these guys up close. You know, you can just see how hard they're hitting it, how much action's on the ball, how clean every shot is. It's just unbelievable.
And I think you bring up a really good point where you were on an outer court and you're just, watch this match. It's really high quality tennis, and you really just don't know what separates these guys, from 1 to 200 is so minimal that that guy that you're watching could have a breakthrough tournament, and it just kind of, it switches in his or her mind. And now they're a top 15 guy, and they're playing all the time, and you watch them, on this, small little court on the outskirts for in front of a few people. I think that's really cool. And like Taylor Townsend, I remember watching her. She's more or less a double specialist, but she was playing Ayla Tomjanovic.
Yeah,
she was featured in the Netflix special in the tennis Netflix special, and those two are going at it. And there's 15 people there total. And granted, that match maybe doesn't warrant a ton of fans, but then Tomjanovic goes on, is a star in the Netflix series. What was that series called again?
Breakpoint.
Breakpoint.
Yep.
And she was dating Berrettini at the start of that, and then Townsend over the last 2 years has won a couple Grand Slams, I think, with Sinikova and with a couple other people. It's just like, and you just watch this, her play just a couple of years ago. It's pretty cool, getting to see just the talent. But do you have any particular players that you really like watching, or that are your favorite players?
I definitely like Alcaraz, especially since seeing him up close. Well, my favorite player to watch is Nadal, and now he's gone. I just thought he was unbelievably entertaining. He was kind of a grinder, which is the style I played more of. I was not the fluid swing like Federer, so I can't relate to, just, and I didn't hit a one-handed backhand, so his game just didn't relate as much to me as Rafa's did. That being said, I did not hit like how many revolutions on the ball like Rafa did, but so I loved Rafa. Nowadays, there's a bunch of guys I really like. I love watching like the baseliners that can just get in these great rallies. So like the Sinner Alcaraz matches are unbelievable, but I like watching like a De Minaur. I love watching Rublev. He just murders tennis balls.
Just smashes the ball
Yeah.
so hard.
And he was a guy. So kind of funny. Ryan and I were there, and we were going to go watch Zverev practice at the tournament. And this was right after he beat Federer in like 2017. And this guy walks in, and I was like, you could kind of see his hair. I'm like, is that Zverev? And he's like, no, that's not. Okay. It must just be a hitting partner. Because a lot of these guys just have random hitting partners.
Right.
And then he started hitting, and we're like, this hitting partner is unbelievable. Like, this has to be a player. Like, he is, and we spent all this time researching. We could not find out who it was. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, I'm watching the U.S. Open, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the guy. Like, I found him. I texting Ryan, like, the guy's name is Andrei Rublev. Like, he's playing in the U.S. Open. That's the guy we were trying to find. And then 2 years later, he's actually goes all the way up. So I kind of have a soft spot for Andrei Rublev just because Ryan and I were watching him warm up, and we're like, this guy is unbelievable. But yeah, I kind of just gravitate more toward the baseliners, and a lot of players nowadays are. But that's my favorite.
Yeah.
No, that's outstanding. And I want to jump a little bit here, Brad. Obviously, you're a tennis player by trade. You've made a living covering hockey, college hockey, and you're one of the best in the business to do it. There's oftentimes, I mean, in North Dakota at least, a correlation between the two sports. Hockey players make good tennis players.
Yeah.
I won't say vice versa, but what are the, when it comes to hockey, how did, talk about your career path a little bit. I know that you started interning for Form Communications, and that led to your current job that you've been at for a long time with the Herald, but talk about that, but also just how the two sports go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. There are a lot of the tennis hockey players out there. I know even guys that played for UND were big tennis guys. Brock Nelson he's just got traded from the Islanders to the Colorado Avalanche. He's about to play 1,000 NHL games. Brock Nelson absolutely loves tennis. So anytime I text back and forth with him from time to time. I don't think we've ever talked about hockey. We only talk about tennis. So yeah, there is a crossover, it seems. I got into it, that I was at the paper, and the guy who covered UND hockey before me happened to retire before a season started. He had done it for 36 years, and I had done some backup stuff the year before a little bit, sidebars and different hockey stories. The World Juniors was there the year before, and I did tons of coverage for the Herald for that. And that World Juniors was, by the way, like the most unbelievable World Juniors of all time. The NHL was locked out, so like everybody eligible played. And Russia had Evgeny Malkin and Alexander Ovechkin. Sidney Crosby was on that Canada team. The first time Crosby and Ovechkin played was actually in Grand Forks. So yeah, I had done it before, and they just told me to start doing it and haven't told me to stop. And it's been 20 years now. So, yeah, I've been covering it, but yeah, you're right. It seems to be a correlation between the two sports, and I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I think the hand-eye coordination is a big part of it.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, hockey players have grit. They have that competitive mindset, which I think translates beautifully to tennis. On the hockey side of things, I want to ask you, what do you think of the Four Nations tournament? I mean, I think it was something going in that people were excited about, but the reception was truly outstanding across all sports. Sports fans, I should say. Everybody was pumped about it.
Yeah, I was actually surprised a little bit because it was a tournament with no history. Like everybody loves the Olympics, everyone loves seeing international hockey, but I was like, this is kind of just a made up random 4-team tournament. Or is this really going to captivate people? And it did. So I was a little bit surprised at how captivating it was. I think part of it too is that the NHL players have not gone to the Olympics the last 2 times. So we actually haven't seen like a best on best US, Canada, Finland, Sweden for a decade. Like it's been a really long time since we've had that. And so I think people were ready to see it again. I think that played into it. And we've got the Olympics coming up here in a year. So that should be pretty fun.
Well, and going off of that, obviously, Olympics wise, it'll be more nations, but be a lollipop to put Russia in a 4 nations, 5 nations tournament down the road here. Like, what does that look like? I mean, I would imagine that they weren't in. Obviously, we've got very unique international relations right now, you would say, but do you think that they would ever allow like a Russia or other countries into a tournament like that?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what the Olympics will be, but will they add more to something? I don't even know if they'll do that again. Maybe.
Yeah,
they've done different forms of it. They had one where they had like an under 23 team that I forgot what event that was a few years ago, but they've tried different forms of international hockey.
Sure.
Dang, sorry. I was just laughing there. But sorry, one thing that before and I wanted to bring this up, and I thought this was super impressive when I read an article about you Brad, was that you took over, as an intern for, is it Verge Foss?
Yeah.
So you took over for him, and you have been the only person since him. You two have been the only beat writers for hockey since 1969. Is that a true thing?
Yeah, isn't that insane? It's two writers in 56 years. Is that, if my math is right?
Yeah, that's nuts. But so you have I mean, a bunch of different mascots out there. You have the Ravens, the Eagles, Partridges, and now you have the Fighting Hawks, who were formerly the Sioux. When you're talking about legacy, obviously clearly you've been there super long time. You've had a long legacy, doing what you do. How do you feel about covering the UND Fighting Hawks, the Sioux, writing in kind of navigating, writing about the Sioux, who are now the Hawks? How does that work with your writing and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, the first transition was the hardest because, like, when you're writing, you like to refer to both the team name, like the school name, and then the mascot name, both the nickname, the team name and nickname, because then you don't say the same word over and over and over. You can kind of alternate. Well, when they first got rid of the Sioux name, they had no nickname for 3 years.
Right.
So it was only North Dakota, North Dakota, North Dakota every time you wrote it. So that was definitely a transition. I had hoped that they were going to choose something a little bit more unique. So like, now that it's the Fighting Hawks against the Red Hawks in the same league. Miami's the Red Hawks. Like, I just wanted them to choose something crazy that nobody else had, and they didn't exactly do that. But it was more weird right away when I had been writing Sioux for years, and then all of a sudden you stop, and then all of a sudden you have a new nickname, and you got so used to writing without using a nickname, then you're like, oh, wait a sec, I can use a nickname again, and I would forget. And so old habits die hard.
Well, I remember, Brad, that actually, Isaac, you were there. Myself, Carter Steff is who you know.
Mhm.
Um, went up to UND to watch. I think it was the Fighting Hawks versus the Vandals, Idaho.
Yeah.
Football game, and you were there covering. And it was the unveiling of the mascot, and we ran into each other, and you're like, "Hey, you guys are in for a treat. They're unveiling the new mascot today." Or like the actual physical mascot, and obviously was met with boos. But at what point do you think, like, how many decades is it going to take for people to stop calling them, and I'm not saying positive or negative, but just
Yeah.
logistically for them, to call them the Fighting Hawks? Because you
Yeah. I
still
mean,
hear
Never.
Sue all the time.
yeah. I mean, it's that's a really good question. I think you hear more of it now than you did 10 years ago, and I think it just is a gradual process that takes time. But you certainly still hear Sue around, but it certainly is not what you would have heard 10 years ago. So it's changed, but it's certainly going to take more time.
Yeah. What if it was like you know how there's these movies where they make the remake, Dune, you have Dune 2 or just like Dune original and then Dune, I guess second with the second making of it, but they do that quite a bit. What if in like 50 years they're like, let's run it back.
Yeah.
We're the Sioux again. We're the Sioux again. Yeah, I mean, you can't take anything out of the equation. Anything is possible, I feel like.
Honestly, with the saga that the nickname had, my rule at the time, there were so many twists and turns. My rule was, do not predict what's going to happen next because you're going to be wrong. There were so many things that you would have never seen coming, and so I was just like, don't. When people ask you what's going to happen, I say I'm not even going to predict it because it's going to be wrong.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way it ended up being. It was just so many different twists and turns to get to where we are today, and there haven't been any for a while now. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have to write the stories anymore, though.
Yeah. Well,
And go ahead, Dave.
no, you go first.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I feel like we can wrap her up. We're
Yeah.
nearing an hour here, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, Brad, when you take a look back at your experiences professionally in journalism, but just with tennis, I mean, are you happy? I mean, obviously you're a North Dakota boy, moved a couple miles up I-29. You're in Grand Forks. When you look back, like, what do you have to say about your experiences when you reflect?
Yeah, I think actually, like, tennis and sports, like, really prepared me for journalism, and I think it's why I love journalism. So I got my internship, and you go in there, and it has all these elements. Like, number one, you're competing against other news organizations to get stories and to have the best stories. You want to get the breaking news. You want to get the scoops. You want to have the best stories. So there's an element of competition, which there is in tennis. You have teammates that you have to work with. You have photographers, designers, graphics people, and they have certain talents that you don't, and you have some that they don't, and you try to put everyone's talents together to come up with the best product every day. And hey, maybe some days I don't perform as well, but your teammates pick you up, and that's great. And some days maybe you can pick your teammates up, and that's great. And then the other thing is, it was really every day you plan out how the day is going to go. You plan out, these are going to be our stories that are coming in today. This is what's going to go on the front page. This is who's going to cover the games, and this is what time you're going to get your story in by, and we can get the designer there. You kind of map everything out how the day is going to go, and that's kind of like creating a game plan before you're going into a match. Like, this is my plan today. And then also, the day never goes the way you think it's going to go.
Right.
Things happen you don't expect, which is the same thing that happens when you're in a tennis match, and you have to adapt as you go. and I think like sometimes like things go wrong, and I would see everyone in our news would freak out about things going wrong, and the time to deadline was ticking away, and they were still focused on what went wrong. And I'm saying, I would always tell them, "Oh, stop! It went wrong. We can't change it. What are we going to do? Let's do it right now, and just fix the problem." And I think that's kind of from the tennis mindset. Something went wrong. You can't sit there and focus on what went wrong, or you're down 3 more games, right?
Right.
You have to say, it went wrong, stop, refocus. What are we going to do to adjust for what just went wrong? And so there were a lot of like things throughout tennis and sports that I think translate to the journalism world, and I think that's why I love it. I'm not playing competitive tennis anymore or sports, and I don't count the random pickleballs as competitive sports. Sorry, but now it's just leisure. Like I felt like high school, you're competing, you really, really want to win. Now when I play tournaments, like I'm old, I just want to have fun. But I just felt like it brought back like a lot of the things I felt with tennis, and I felt tennis and other sports as well really prepared you for journalism.
No, I think that's beautifully said. I have to end with this, Brad. What's the favorite tweet that you've ever had about you? Obviously, you tweet a ton. But my favorite personally was, I think it was Barstool UND. It was when you something, but you've got a Brad Schlossman article to read. I can't remember the exact verbiage, but you probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think there was a video of someone who was at a club that, everyone was kind of dancing, and this person was just sitting there looking at their cell phone while everyone was having a great time around them. And it might have been like when you're at the club, but Brad Schlossman just sent a tweet or something.
Yes.
Yeah, that was funny.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. Well, Brad, thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight. We appreciate you, your contributions to the tennis community, hockey community, and all the above. But have a great night.
Thanks, guys. I'm sure we could chat tennis for hours, but have a great one. I'm sure I'll see you guys soon.